Good evening. Welcome to tonight's May 25th, 2022 meeting of the Brighton Town Board. I'm Bill Maley, Brighton Town Supervisor. Tonight, I will be giving the annual State of the Town address. We will also have annual reports and a presentation of those reports from the Brighton Police Department, as well as Brighton Volunteer Ambulance. We'll also have a proclamation recognizing Emergency Medical Services Week. After those presentations, we will begin the open forum portion of our meeting. That will take some time. I'm going to estimate an hour or so before we get to the open forum. But the open forum is the opportunity for members of the public to share their comments with the town board. If you're watching us on YouTube or on the cable access channel here in Brighton, you will have to log into Zoom to actually access and speak during the open forum. There are detailed instructions for doing that on the Town of Brighton webpage at www.townofbrighton.org. We continue to make our meetings accessible to the deaf and the hard of hearing communities with our ASL interpreters, Allie and Heather. Thank you both very much. As a reminder, the agenda for tonight's meeting, as well as the materials that the board will be looking at in making decisions tonight, all are available on that same Town of Brighton webpage, www.townofbrighton.org. We'll start the meeting with the pledge to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you for joining us tonight. I'll now begin the annual State of the Town address for the year 2022. I first acknowledge that while we meet remotely, the town of Brighton is situated on the ancestral and traditional lands of the Onondaga tribe of the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, whom we recognize and respect as the traditional custodians of this land throughout the generations. We pay our respect to Onondaga elders, past and present. The history, culture, and traditions of the Onondaga are worthy of our understanding and our study, and we praise those who keep those traditions alive. We recognize that the study of those traditions is of ongoing importance if we are to truly understand the history of our community and our nation. We support efforts to ensure that we and future generations continue that study and that respect in a way that is honest and truthful, so that, in the words of Sacagawea, the great Haudenosaunee chief and orator, also known as Red Jacket, we may always work together to brighten the chain of friendship. I want to tell you honestly, it is very difficult to speak to you tonight about the state of the town, because I must speak tonight in the context of a world where we have seen uncontrolled violence that seems to be running rampant. A father buying a birthday cake for his son, a longtime community activist, a retired and beloved police officer who became a security guard, and 7 other people who were gunned down in Buffalo by an 18-year-old man consumed by hate. I will say their names: Roberta Drury, Marcus Morrison, Andre McNeil, Aaron Salter, Geraldine Talley, Celestine Cheney, Hayward Patterson, Catherine Massett, Pearl Young, and Ruth Whitfield. These are not simply victims of a shooting. That is far too sanitized. They are parents. They were parents, grandparents, family, friends, people taken from this world brutally by a hateful killer with an illegally modified semi-automatic weapon. Then yesterday, 19 school children, 2 teachers in Texas. Within days of finishing their school year, they were gunned down again by a semi-automatic weapon wielded by an 18-year-old man. I know that parents in Brighton and across our nation had difficult conversations with their children and with each other this morning. All of us must now have difficult conversations of one kind or another until we can solve a crisis of gun violence that is cresting across our nation. While I don't pretend for a moment that thoughts and prayers are a sufficient solution, out of respect to those killed at Top Supermarket in Buffalo, and out of respect to the 21 victims of the shooting yesterday at Robb Elementary School in Uvalde, Texas, let us please observe a moment of silence. Thank you. I urge us all to search our hearts and to work in a constructive but active way to make sure that shootings like these do not scar our communities ever again. To that end, I do want to acknowledge Councilmember Chris Warner, who researched and advocated and saw to it that the town board in Brighton unanimously passed a safe gun storage law to make it less likely for guns to fall, even inadvertently, into the wrong hands. Thank you, Chris. There is so much more work that we have to do. Last year, I addressed the state of the town of Brighton after a year in which COVID had impacted people's lives and people's ability to live their lives in so many ways. At the same time, I spoke of a time when we could look forward. Tonight, we do look forward, and we look forward with optimism. While I strongly encourage Brighton residents to get their booster shot or their second booster if they haven't already done so, and I encourage everyone to continue to use whatever level of COVID precaution you're comfortable with, our Brighton businesses and restaurants are busier than they've been in over 2 years. And we're seeing new businesses open and thrive in Brighton. Just last night, I was speaking with the owners of a Monroe Avenue business at an event sponsored by the Brighton Chamber of Commerce. Their business is just one of many that is thriving and successfully finding new ways to connect with their customers. I'm so pleased to see the ongoing renovation and the reopening very soon of Malik's Bakery as one more example, thanks to the commitment of Hillel supporting this great Brighton institution right on Monroe Avenue. Support Brighton businesses, buy in Brighton, and you are supporting your neighbors and your neighborhoods, and you're helping to build a better Brighton. Brighton is one of the few communities in Monroe County where the number of home purchases has risen so far in 2022. People want to live in Brighton now more than ever. It is important that we make sure that Brighton is a community that has housing opportunities for people of all income levels. While I can't go into a lot of details at this point, we are currently in discussions for new affordable housing proposals that will ensure that living in Brighton is not an impossible dream. People want to live in a community where they can walk, ride the bus, or ride their bikes to necessities like schools, grocery stores, places of worship, and other important destinations. People want to live in a community where people of all faiths, races, gender identities, and backgrounds are welcomed, celebrated, and safe, and where their local government acts with intention to ensure that that's the case. People want to live in a community where the schools are outstanding and where the schools give all students the opportunity to succeed and to thrive. People want to live in a community that celebrates our seniors and provides a wide range of services and housing options, including aging in place. People want to live in a community with parks, trails, open spaces, and recreational facilities for people of all ages and abilities. Brighton is that community. Tonight, in this State of the Town address, I will highlight our successes and our plans for future success. Tonight, I acknowledge gratefully the people who serve our community as first responders, as volunteers on our community boards and organizations, as leaders in church, synagogue, or mosque, and as coaches and leaders in youth sports and other youth activities. I also acknowledge and thank every employee of the town of Brighton. You make Brighton work. You help keep us safe. You help us face the challenges of climate change and the moral imperative of social justice and equity. You make Brighton a place that people are proud to call home. Our senior staff people, like all of our employees, come into work every day focused on serving the community. They have different backgrounds, different skill sets, but each one is a professional, and each one works day in and day out for the town of Brighton. Local government, including town government, is the government closest to the people. And in many ways, it's the level of government that can most directly impact people's lives on a day-to-day basis. In a diverse community like Brighton, that means that local government has an obligation to understand and respond to the needs of town residents. All of our residents, no matter what their race, their faith tradition, disability status, gender identification, age, or other characteristic. To do that more effectively, the town established the position of Chief Diversity Officer, responsible for diversity, equity, and inclusion, or DEI. Last month, we hired Miriam Moore Burt, an experienced DEI professional, to fill that position. Brighton is the first town in Monroe County to hire a Chief Diversity Officer. And in her position as CDO, Miriam reports directly to me as supervisor. If there's one thing I can tell you, this position will not operate in a silo. Miriam will be working holistically as an integral part of everything we do here in town government. And I'm certain that the decision to hire Miriam as our Chief Diversity Officer will enhance town government and the community as a whole. Thank you, Miriam, for hitting the ground running, for building relationships, and for the perspective and experience that you bring to Brighton as our Chief Diversity Officer. I also want to thank the volunteer members of the town's Inclusion, Diversity, and Equity Advisory Board, the IDEA Board. They accepted the challenge of developing our Inclusion, Diversity, and Equity Action Plan, the IDEA Plan. The draft IDEA Plan has 6 key focus areas, including infrastructure, housing, and transportation, engagement and partnerships, inclusion and representation, policies and practices, economics, communication, education and celebration, and public safety. These 6 key areas cut across all aspects of town government and the community. Each of these key areas includes specific goals and suggested strategies for meeting those goals. The draft plan is available online at www.brightonidea.org. I urge you to read the draft plan, and then I urge you to share your comments about the plan right there online at www.brightonidea.org. The draft IDEA plan will be revised to reflect your community input and then presented to the town board for its final review and expected approval before the end of this summer. During the spring and summer, we will recognize and celebrate Memorial Day, Juneteenth, Pride, and the 4th of July, and we will encourage the entire community to be a part of these and other celebrations and events. With the plan in place, we will ensure that town policies reflect best practices when it comes to DEI. We will ensure that town infrastructure is accessible to all beyond the bare minimums required by the ADA, the Americans with Disabilities Act. Last week, the town of Brighton co-sponsored a highly successful job fair in collaboration with Rochester Works and SUNY Empire State College. We will repeat events like these, and we will engage with community members and organizations, economic development groups, and partners in government across the greater Rochester area to ensure that we can hire a strong, diverse workforce, to ensure that new minority business owners can open and thrive in Brighton, and to ensure that Brighton sends the strongest possible signal that we welcome, include, and celebrate all of our residents. Mike Guyon, who is not only the Commissioner of Public Works, but also our Highway Superintendent and Sewer Commissioner, wears many hats and handles a broad range of responsibilities. Mike is responsible for so much of our infrastructure and is so often the person who engages with residents or with other county or state personnel to keep things operating smoothly. Just yesterday morning, Mike met with a group of neighbors at 7:30 a.m. Not because it worked best for Mike, but because that time worked for the residents who met with him. Thank you, Mike. All of us, all of the residents of Brighton are lucky you're working for us and for them. Town Clerk Dan Amon often acts as the ombudsman here in Town Hall for the residents of Brighton. in addition to his official record keeping and related roles as town clerk. Day in and day out, when people aren't sure who to turn to for help, they walk into Dan's office, and Dan and his team make every effort to get them answers and results. Dan is also responsible for responding to Freedom of Information law requests, which have risen in number, as well as issuing a variety of licenses and permits, including, of course, everybody's favorite, marriage licenses. The town clerk truly serves the people of Brighton face to face on issues large and small on a daily basis. Becky Cotter, our Recreation Director, and Matt Beeman, Park Superintendent, work closely together, providing recreation activities and facilities of all kinds to our community. As Recreation Director, Becky manages recreational programming for ages toddlers to seniors. Most recently, she's also been an integral part of our planning for a new community center to serve Brighton, as well as working to ensure that even as Brookside School is being sold to the Talmudical Institute of Upstate New York for their future use as a religious school, the Brighton Recreation Department will continue to operate from Brookside even after the sale, as we plan our longer-term facilities needs, all the while still providing affordable and high-quality programs and special events for people of all ages. Matt Beeman manages our park system, which has seen a dramatic increase in usage during the past 2 years. Our parks and shelters are used in an organized way by youth and adult sports leagues. They're also used in a more casual way by people interested in viewing the wildlife of the Sandra Frankel Nature Park and Brickyard Trail. People interested in the scenic beauty of Corbett's Glen, or holding a birthday party by the pond in the Town Park Lodge. We have continued to expand our parkland and trail system, and the challenge of maintaining that system becomes greater by the year. But Matt and his staff always keep our facilities ready for use, even if it means Matt has to go out into the field himself. Brighton Memorial Library is a prized community asset used daily by Brightonians and by people from throughout the area. Its resources can be accessed in a variety of ways, in person still, but also using a wide range of technologies. Recently, I attended a celebration by the Friends of Brighton Memorial Library, celebrating 50 years of service by the Friends of Brighton Memorial Library as volunteers. Like so much of what we do, volunteers are an integral part of the success of our library, and I am grateful for the many ways they serve, not only serving the library, but our many boards, youth organizations, and the like. Brighton Memorial Library has been recognized as the best library in Monroe County. No surprise there. Under the leadership of Library Executive Director Jennifer Reese-Taggart, the Brighton Memorial Library provides activities, knowledge, and the love of learning to hundreds of people every day. Last year in the State of the Town address, I spoke of our police reform plan mandated by the state of New York, which was presented by Police Chief David Cathaldi that very night, after consultation with a number of community organizations. 1 year later, we already see the benefits of the plan, particularly the new civilian hiring panel, made up of a diverse group, again, of community volunteers who interview every person hired by the Brighton Police Department to a uniform position as part of the formal hiring process. The Brighton Police Department is also in the forefront of mental health training, including 100% of all patrol officers who have received mental health crisis intervention training. We hear so often the need to address individuals in mental health crisis as it relates to law enforcement. That crisis intervention training addresses a wide variety of mental health and related issues, enabling the members of our police department to do exactly that from a place of knowledge and wisdom. During the past year, the department also initiated the use of the Hvac program, which allows individuals to provide immediate feedback on any interaction they might have with the police. This year also marks 30 years that the Brighton Police Department has been credited by the New York State Division of Criminal Justice Services. And later this evening, you'll hear Chief Cathaldi update the community on the status of community policing here in Brighton as he presents the Brighton Police Department annual report. Under Chief Cathaldi's leadership, the department remains at the forefront of professionalism in law enforcement. The Brighton Police Department also works in collaboration with the 3 other public safety agencies that serve Brighton on a regular basis: the Brighton Fire Department, Henrietta Fire Department, which serves West Brighton and all parts of Brighton south of the Erie Canal, and Brighton Volunteer Ambulance. Together, these agencies play a vital and professional public safety mission for all of Brighton. Yesterday, the 4th Tuesday in May, was Grievance Day in New York State, the deadline for property owners to challenge their assessment for property tax purposes. This year, our new assessor, Pamela Post, conducted her first Grievance Day in Brighton, although she had served many years in the town of Canandaigua before coming to Brighton earlier this year. Given the rapid rise in real estate values during the past year, the grievance process this year was probably more challenging than ever. But as always, our assessor and our volunteer board of assessment review provided hands-on guidance to people seeking to challenge their valuations. And I heard someone telling me exactly that yesterday at the same Chamber of Commerce event, expressing their appreciation for the assistance that our assessor's office had provided to him. We currently have the smallest backlog of commercial property tax challenges in many years, further indication of the skillful but fair way the town assessor conducts the assessment process. The finance department is largely unseen to our residents, but under the leadership of Director Paula Parker and Deputy Finance Director Suzanne Zaso, the finance department develops the town's capital improvement plan and town budget each year. They manage the day-to-day financial operations of the town, like accounts payable and receivable, payroll, and employee benefits. Then they work with our auditors to ensure the financial integrity of our financial statements. Brighton maintains a strong AA2 bond rating from Moody's and continues a long tradition of responsible and transparent financial management. Our personnel director, Tricia Van Putty, works in parallel with the finance department in employee benefits and ensures that the town complies with all of its policies and legal requirements related to town employment. In particular, Tricia continues to work to ensure that Brighton reaches as many populations as possible when we make new hires, and that in particular, she stays in contact with a diverse range of agencies that help identify diverse job candidates. The Brighton Town Court, headed by Judge Karen Morris and Judge John Falk, as well as Court Administrator Lisa Pavlovich, handle thousands of cases each year with a commitment to justice and an understanding that while many of these cases may seem minor to some, they can be extremely important to the parties involved. And the confidence of those parties that justice has been served is essential. Our judges are well respected, and court administration sees to it that appearances are scheduled and files maintained, and that people in court have an opportunity to speak with someone who can help them understand the judicial system here in Brighton. Town Attorney Ken Gordon is another staff member who may not deal with the general public on a regular basis, but his service to the town is tremendously important to all of us. As town attorney, Ken engages with town staff, with outside attorneys and other professionals on a wide range of issues. Ken works with our town board, with the planning board, the zoning board of appeals, the historic preservation board, as well as providing general legal and professional guidance to town staff in a variety of areas. IT Director Jeremy Lutz was highlighted last year for his rapid response to taking so much of the town's activities to remote. Now we can continue to take advantage of Jeremy's skills in incorporating technology into our day-to-day operations, even as we've returned to town hall. Jeremy is also responsible for keeping our operations safe from an increase in cybercrime, a job that becomes more and more difficult as new techniques for hacking and other incursion into information technology must be stopped. Gary Donofrio is the town's facilities director. Again, his position required an immediate response last year and in 2020 to the COVID pandemic. And he was responsible for much of the work that was done to ensure the safety of employees and residents once town hall reopened. Now he's involved with planning for improvements to the HVAC system and other important elements of town hall to make the building safer for users and for employees, but also to more efficiently use the available space here in the building. These are the key leaders of our team. They work together and with me to provide the services you receive from the town. I commend and I thank each of them for the work they've done, particularly during the pandemic, and for their willingness, in fact, their eagerness to embrace new initiatives, such as our IDEA plan and our DEI work in general. The town board, Jason DePonzio, Chris Werner, Robin Wilt, and Christine Corrado, are elected officials who serve, along with myself, as the legislative body of town government. They also serve on town board committees that provide us with an opportunity to do a deeper dive with public participation into specific areas of concern in the areas of finance, public safety, community services, and public works. And they act as liaisons to various volunteer boards here in town. Each one of them, like me, is open to hear from you, the residents of Brighton, about issues that are of importance to you. In many cases, they can bring such matters before the appropriate town board committee for fact-finding, review, and a determination as to whether further town board consideration is appropriate. The COVID pandemic has taught us many lessons. One of the most important is that collaboration is essential for an efficient and effective response to crisis. The relationships that are built during crisis also serve us well during more normal times. In particular, I want to note the collaboration during the past 2 years with Monroe County. Under the leadership of County Executive Adam Bello, the county made it possible for us to distribute masks and test kits and coordinated vaccine clinics, all with the goal of protecting the public health of Brighton residents. In recognition of that important collaboration, the Brighton Rotary Club recently named Dr. Michael Mendoza, Monroe County Director of Public Health, as its Citizen of the Year for 2022. And I couldn't agree more with the selection of Dr. Mendoza for that award, and I congratulate him on that recognition. Monroe County has also shared relief funds from the CARES Act program with local municipalities like Brighton that otherwise would not have been eligible for CARES Act funding. Brighton also works in partnership with New York State. Our New York State elected officials have worked to support a number of important initiatives, both for the town and for the Brighton Central School District. Thanks to Assembly Member Sarah Clark, the Brighton Memorial Library soon will have a new roof, eliminating roof leaks that have been a problem for many years. State Senator Jeremy Cooney has obtained funding for the town to finally complete a sidewalk link along East Avenue near Allens Creek School, enabling both Brighton and Pittsford students to get to Allens Creek School more safely, and allowing a continuous pedestrian route from Rochester through Brighton to the village of Pittsford. Together, Senator Cooney and Assemblymember Clark have also addressed the long-standing problem of underfunding state aid for the Brighton Central School District. For years, the Brighton Central School District received far less than its fair share of foundation aid, one of the core state school funding programs. Thanks to Senator Cooney and Assemblymember Clark, that disparity is being eliminated over these next couple of years, ensuring that local taxpayers do not pay an excessive share of school taxes, while ensuring that our Brighton schools continue to have the financial resources to remain the finest and most inclusive school district in upstate New York. I'm also grateful to Representative Joe Morelli and Senator Schumer and Gillibrand for their support during the pandemic. Thanks to their efforts, the town of Brighton will receive over $3.6 million in American Relief Plan Act funding. Our first priority for those funds will be to upgrade the HVAC system in Town Hall, as I mentioned earlier, to ensure that this building has the technology needed to make it a healthy workplace. The building was built in the mid-50s, and air filtration, which was talked about so much at the beginning of the pandemic, but which we know is an important element of safe building practices, it's non-existent because this building is that old. Building ventilation has been cited as one of the most important safety measures to protect not only against COVID, but against other airborne viruses. We will also use ARPA funds to help address other community needs, including needs that reflect a focus on justice and equity. The pandemic has exacerbated the impacts on underserved populations, and I'm committed to allocating a portion of our ARPA funds to mitigate those impacts. The town also collaborates with neighboring towns on a regular basis and with the city. This past year, we worked with the town of Henrietta and the Henrietta Fire District to reach an agreement under which West Brighton would receive fire service from the Henrietta Fire Department, which will lead over time to significant cost savings for taxpayers. As we speak, I'm working with Supervisor David Dunning of Chili and a number of other Monroe County town supervisors, as well as Monroe County itself, the city of Rochester, and Lollipop Farm on new solutions for kenneling stray dogs picked up by our animal control officers in each of our towns. That's a service that our previous provider announced on very short notice that it would no longer be willing to provide, not only to Brighton, but to other communities. Whether it's other levels of government or groups like the Brighton Chamber of Commerce and Brighton Rotary, collaboration helps us do more with less. We also continue our focus on sustainability. Just as Brighton is the leader in addressing issues of diversity, Brighton is also the regional leader on sustainability. Brighton has been recognized by New York State as a clean energy community and a climate smart community. This week, the town-owned streetlights on Elmwood Avenue have been converted to lower cost and longer lasting LED fixtures. And town-owned lights on Monroe Avenue will be converted later this week using state grant funds. Neighborhood streetlights, which are owned by RG&E, are scheduled to begin to be converted to LED starting later this year, beginning in the Struckmar neighborhood. Now, in most neighborhoods, although not the Struckmar neighborhood, this work will require some significant infrastructure improvements, including underground improvements. All of those improvements will be made by RG&E. But in the end, and this will be a several-year project, those streets will be lit more reliably and more efficiently at lower cost by LED light fixtures. We will be initiating other new programs, including additional EV charging stations using grant money from the state of New York. Our climate action plan update will be completed, hopefully later this year. The climate action plan is our data-driven approach to reducing carbon emissions, both from government operations and from the Brighton community as a whole. Again, funding for this plan is being provided by the state of New York. Community choice aggregation has been successful in not only dramatically reducing carbon emissions by creating a 100% renewable electricity supply program, but also by reducing electricity supply costs for residents by locking in a fixed rate for 2021 and 2022. Going forward, when that fixed rate ends at the end of 2022, it seems very likely that the cost of energy, cost of electricity in the community choice aggregation program will increase because market forces have dramatically increased energy prices. However, Brighton will continue to make it possible for you to take advantage of price allowances on renewable electricity supplies because we buy in bulk. We'll solicit bids and negotiate a new fixed price agreement later this year. Again, that new agreement will likely be at a higher price, but it will still provide protection against further market price increases for electricity. Preserving open space and promoting trails, sidewalks, and bicycle paths also reduces carbon emissions and enhances our quality of life. Earlier this year, the town of Brighton reached an agreement to purchase approximately 44 acres of open space from Faith Church. This purchase, which is expected to close later this year, will mean that the town will own over 190 acres of the former farmland south of Westfall Road. We're grateful to have worked with Faith Church and Pastor Edlin so we could buy this land for the residents of Brighton. Going forward, we'll discuss with the community any future uses for that land, recognizing the importance of maintaining natural habitat. We're also planning for the development of a community center facility to meet Brighton's long-term recreation and related needs. Our consultants, SWBR, are reviewing a number of options to best meet community space and recreation needs on a cost-effective basis. And in doing so, they're taking into account the surveys received from nearly 1,000 people in making their recommendations to the town. Again, I want to note that for the foreseeable future, the Brighton Parks and Recreation departments will remain at Brookside School. Although the Brighton Central School District has an agreement to sell that property to the Talmudical Institute of Upstate New York, which proposes to expand the building and use the expansion for school use, we will use a portion of the existing building for our recreation department, as we have for many years. We continue to build new sidewalks in Brighton, filling gaps in our system using community development block grants and incentive zoning amenities to fund the work. Next year, we expect to construct additional sidewalks on East Avenue and on Elmwood Avenue. And future projects are also planned for Winton Road and Westfall Road. When I became supervisor, I committed to pay all full-time employees at least a living wage as computed by the City of Rochester. In light of the failure of a federal minimum wage increase to $15 an hour to pass in Congress, it is again time for Brighton to be first and to do more. I'm committing to all of our employees, full and part-time and seasonal, that we will increase the base wage to at least $15 per hour as of January 1st, 2023. That increase will have a modest impact on our budget, but more importantly, it will have a very positive impact on our employees and help ensure that we can hire the best people at all levels. Today, people who stop me on the street to ask about the Whole Foods project do so not because they oppose it. They do so because they want to know when it's going to open. They, like me, are excited that Whole Foods is coming to town, coming to Brighton. In 2018, the town board approved a proposal for a 50,000 square foot Whole Foods grocery store. I know a lot of you know this history, but I think it's important. The first Whole Foods store in the Rochester area, along with other retail space. The total approved project size is just over 80,000 square feet after the town board twice reduced the size of the overall project in response to community feedback. The buildings will be constructed on land that is zoned for commercial development. 5 public hearings were held, and the town conditioned its approval on amenities, including the developer installing various traffic safety mitigation measures on Monroe Avenue, a conservation easement as a buffer along Clover Street, and the acquisition of rights of way and the construction of the Auburn Trail, running from Highland Avenue to the Pittsford Town Line, connecting with the existing Auburn Trail in Pittsford. Today, the Auburn Trail has been completed. We've received the conservation easement and traffic safety measures, including the access management plan service drive behind the stores on the other side of Monroe Avenue, have been completed. Construction is well underway, despite ongoing litigation, apparently funded by a nearby competitor in Pittsford, trying to block the project. Upon completion, the project will pay full property taxes to the town, full property taxes to the town, to the Brighton Central School District, and to Monroe County, estimated at approximately $400,000 per year. Thanks to prudent financial management and an open and participatory budget development process, Brighton's fiscal condition overall continues to be strong. Our Moody's AA2 bond rating remains unchanged, and the controller again has determined that Brighton has among the lowest levels of fiscal stress in the state. Even with increased inflation, Brighton has taken steps that will reduce costs, such as the restructuring of fire service in West Brighton and the increased use of LED lighting. In addition, sales tax revenues have continued to trend above our conservative budget estimates. You'll hear more about that during the meeting tonight. Although the recent decision by Monroe County to cap gas taxes, which of course will benefit consumers, may at least also have some impact reducing the town's share of gasoline sales taxes for the rest of this year. The 2023 budget development process will begin soon, starting with the development of our 2023 through 2025 capital improvement plan. As we develop the 2023 budget, we will remain vigilant in balancing our fiscal responsibility with quality of life expenditures, as always, with an open door to public participation. While we live in difficult times, we must continue to be optimistic and continue to work together to make Brighton the very best hometown it can be. We must take the challenges we face seriously, but we will also plan to reinforce Brighton's position as a leader, a community of diverse neighborhoods committed to diversity and sustainability. Today, the state of the town of Brighton is strong, and with our plans for dealing with a complex and challenging future, Brighton will remain strong. It is a privilege, it's an honor to serve you and this great community as your town supervisor. Thank you very much for listening. Okay. Next, we have a proclamation recognizing Emergency Services Week. This proclamation was actually presented to Brighton Volunteer Ambulance a week ago Sunday at their annual open house, which is always a great event, but I wanted to share it with the community as well. Whereas the town of Brighton is committed to the safety of its citizens and recognizes that emergency medical services are a necessary public service, the value of which must never be diminished. Whereas the members of EMS teams are ready to provide life-saving care to those in need 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, dramatically improving the survival and recovery rates of those who experience sudden illness or injury. Whereas the town of Brighton joins with countless other communities across the nation in support of Emergency Medical Services Week, and this year's theme, Rising to the Challenge, fittingly acknowledges how EMS has grown to fill a public health gap by providing out-of-hospital care, including preventative medicine, as well as follow-up care. And whereas today we honor Brighton Volunteer Ambulance, which has served the town of Brighton since 1986 in partnership with our police department and our fire departments, and which provides the highest quality EMS care and community support programs. Whereas whether career or volunteer, BVA workers engage in thousands of hours of specialized training and continuing education to enhance their life-saving skills for the benefit of the people of Brighton. Now therefore be it proclaimed that I, William W. Maley, Brighton Town Supervisor, on behalf of the members of the Brighton Town Council, do hereby recognize May 15th through 21st as Emergency Medical Services Week and commend Brighton Volunteer Ambulance for their unfailing commitment to quality service and determination to always rise to every challenge. And this proclamation was signed on the 15th day of May, the day of the BVA open house in the year 2022 by myself, William W. Maley, as Brighton Town Supervisor. Thank you to the members and the leaders of Brighton Volunteer Ambulance who are with us this evening. And I'll use that as an opportunity to segue to the next item on our agenda, the presentation of the 2021 annual report of Brighton Volunteer Ambulance.
Okay, thank you, Bill, and thank you to the town board, yourself, and everyone for joining us at the open house and giving us that great proclamation. We very much appreciate it. Okay, I'll try to move right along here and just give you an idea of what 2021 was like for BVA. As you can imagine, the COVID-19 effects were still paramount in the operations of the ambulance in 2021. Medication shortages, supply chain problems, a lack of volunteer and career EMTs and paramedics made it very difficult for us to achieve our results. The call volume also went up 27% from 2020, which was the COVID time where people were working from home, not on the roadways. Elective surgeries and other surgeries were canceled at many of the medical facilities in Brighton. And that dropped the call volume significantly. But still in 2019 and 2020, we did 55 and 5,700 calls. But last year, the call volume went up due to people returning to office work, more road traffic, and medical facilities returning to on-site doctors' visits and on-site surgical procedures at our medical facilities at the Clinton Crossings area specifically, as well as on Linden as well. The other issue is the shortage of personnel that's affecting all EMS agencies in Monroe County, as well as around the state and most likely throughout the country. And because of that, we need to help each other even in a greater manner, as well as AMR, which operates the contract in the city of Rochester. When people need an ambulance, we have to assist, just like there's times when all our ambulances are tied up on calls and our neighbors in Henrietta, Pittsford, Penfield, and AMR help us as well. All of these issues have taxed our resources and our resolve. However, we move forward due to the dedicated members of our staff and management. In addition, we were fortunate to receive some COVID Response Act funds, which helped plug the gap for some of the increased costs that we had due to overtime, as well as material and supply increases. Other financial factors are related to insurance reimbursement, where many of the calls that we are taking in other areas, as well as within the town of Brighton, over the years, private insurance has dissipated. More residents, retirees, et cetera, have Medicare insurance, and the Medicare reimbursement rate is extremely low. So the predominance of those calls, even though we have more calls, affects the average that we collect from our third-party reimbursements. This is a pace that will be difficult for us to deal with going forward, but we hope that we're kind of at the bottom of it as it relates to our resident base in Brighton. Mental health issues, as were mentioned earlier in Bill's presentation, are certainly something paramount to us. We have seen a significant increase in those types of calls amongst Brighton residents, families, children that require mental health support. We have additional training as well for our personnel to assist in those types of emergencies, which require a lot of calm and resolve to assist those people through the mental health challenges that they're having. 2022 continues to increase along with the cost of fuel, labor, and supplies. We're fortunate to have made an agreement with the town of Brighton many years ago so that we could purchase our fuel at the lower cost of the town of Brighton to take care of our ambulances. However, as it has for the town and for us, those costs have steadily increased. However, they would be much worse if it wasn't for our ability to do that. So again, we appreciate the town's support on that. Labor, again, is a continuous struggle due to a shortage of career and volunteer EMAs and paramedics through Monroe County. So we are collaborating with many of our neighbors, looking at job fair possibilities, as well as ways to bring in younger members that can help supplement, our workforce. With the increased call volume, we've been able to support standby events in the town. We get numerous requests for different neighborhood events, road races, the July 4th celebration, football games, and many other community events that we try to support. In addition to our open house, which we were able to have this year, which has not been held in the last 2 years. We had a great attendance and we appreciate all of our neighbors and assistance there. We've also been able to reopen our loan closet and blood pressure checks in our building, which was something that we could not do during the COVID time. So that is an important service that community residents use, and classes at our training center, which is over at the Brookside School. And we're hoping as well that we'll be able to keep our 2 classrooms over there. So far, that looks very possible, and those classes have increased in participation. So in summary, the challenges of COVID-19 will continue to influence our operations in 2022. We appreciate the continued support from the town and the continuation of our ambulance replacement schedule, which allows us to receive a new truck every 7.5 years to keep our fleet reliable and cost effective. We received a vehicle in November of 21, and then we will be scheduled to receive the next one in November of 23. Our decision back in 2013 to shift our purchases to smaller, more efficient Sprinter trucks has proven to be very successful in managing repair and fuel costs, as well as a 35% lower acquisition cost. So at this time, I would like to thank both the town, again, board, Bill, members, all the other town departments that assist us, our neighbors, the fire departments, Brighton and Henrietta, as well as our EMS partners. Our business manager, Julie Ray Romano, who was on the call tonight, Devin Tomachko, our EMS chief, and our board members, help me to guide this organization, and we appreciate all the support we get. I would just ask you in closing to take a minute to think about, as Bill mentioned, the families that were affected by the tragedies in Buffalo and in Texas, but please also think about the first responders who had to enter those horrific scenes and help support people that could be saved, as well as the family members involved. Fortunately, many of us have not to experience that type of tragedy other than in road and accidents and things like that, but it's a horrific part of the job that EMS, fire, and police have to encounter. And I ask you to keep those folks in your prayers as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Dennis, and thank you especially for that reminder. Thank you also, Julie Ray, and extend, please, our thanks to everyone, both career and volunteer, that really provides a level of service through Brighton Volunteer Ambulance that it's an awful lot of other communities that wish they had. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
We will now go to Brighton Police Chief David Cathaldi, who will be presenting the 2021 annual report of the Brighton Police Department. Chief?
Thank you, Bill. There we go. Well, I want to thank you as well. It's definitely been a somber day here in the police community and our department. Even though we're grieving as a community, as a nation, and even here locally, the members of your police department are out there willing to protect and serve. We were actually out in the community today doing risk assessments on individuals, not necessarily affiliated with the school. So this is just a brief overview of the 2021 annual report. You'll be able to find the entire report online if you go to the townofbrighton.org and scroll to the police department tab. As you mentioned in your State of the Town address, the accreditation logo at the bottom of the screen in the middle, I'm very proud to say, as you said, we have been accredited for 30 years. We have met or exceeded 110 standards, professional law enforcement standards, as deemed by the Division of Criminal Justice Services. And I want to thank you for your support, along with all of the town board members. I can't do what I do, and the members of this department can't do what they do without your unwavering support. I just want to take a minute to thank our records division for pulling all of these numbers together, and Mr. JP O'Brien for putting the actual annual report together. Our report does continue to evolve over the years, partly because of our Executive Order 203 plan, and I'm always looking for ways to improve upon our report. This slide represents, as you can see from the bar chart, there was an increase of about 1,162 calls for service as compared to last year, which is about a 2% increase. As Dennis was saying, in the ambulance world, I think we're still feeling the effects of the pandemic for the past 2 years. This slide represents what we've broken down to our self-initiated calls and response calls, because we want to differentiate what the members are out there doing. As you can see, there was a slight increase in our self-initiated calls, about 6%, and about less than a 0.2%, or excuse me, 6% for our response calls and less than 0.2% increase for total self-initiated calls. Some of the self-initiated calls really go to the heart of our community engagement initiative. There's such items like our foot patrols, special attentions to some of the vulnerable sites in our community, traffic details, traffic special attentions in neighborhoods, and they don't necessarily represent a negative interaction with the community. Excuse me. This new chart was added to our annual report last year because I thought it was important to show the community what we're experiencing here in Brighton as to compared to what they may be seeing on the local or national news around the state and the nation. There are only 4 categories defined on the right side of that slide in our annual report, because those are the only ones that we have experienced in the previous 5 years of trending data. The defined terms on the right side of that slide are terms used by DCJS, so the Division of Criminal Justice Services, and that's how they categorize hate crimes. DCJS, or the Division of Criminal Justice Services, actually has 52 classifications of hate crimes. So our trending data, as you can see, we average about 3 hate crimes a year. And a hate crime is a traditional offense. It's defined as being motivated by a bias. When we experience a hate crime, as we have experienced in 2021, we routinely partner with the New York State Police Hate Crimes Task Force, and we assign a lot of resources to identify any potential suspects. Burglary. This is a category that we've always tracked in our annual report due to the propensity of violence, especially when we talk about residential burglaries, which have always been a concern for this agency. We continue to trend in the right direction with 75 reported burglaries in 2021, which is about a 6% decrease from last year. I like to think we've made significant reductions in burglaries by making arrests of prolific serial burglars over the years. Just keep in mind that one burglar can actually commit dozens of burglaries before being apprehended. We as an agency have gotten really good at identifying patterns and working with our other law enforcement partners in Monroe County and beyond to make those arrests. We're still down significantly from where we were in the early 2000s. Specifically in 2005, we had 200 burglaries. So I think we've made quite a significant. This slide represents larcenies. Larcenies include everything from commonly referred to as shoplifting to stealing items from motor vehicles and even stealing vehicle parts. This reflects almost a 6% decrease from last year. As you know, because you've attended community meetings with me, every chance I get, whether it's in the blotter or in person, I remind people and advise people to lock their valuables in their house, remove any valuables from their vehicles. Last year, I spoke to several community groups to remind them of the risk of leaving their vehicles unlocked. And also, we encourage people to report even the most minor of thefts so we can identify trends and patterns early before they become a much wider problem. Arrests, as you can see, they're still down significantly from where they were in the years previous to 2019. I think a lot of that is due to the pandemic. As Dennis says, and I'm sure you've heard, I think there's going to be a lot of studying from criminologists and social scientists in the years coming to see how this pandemic has affected crime patterns and the criminal justice system. Arrests. This reflects a 292 arrests that we made last year in 2021. This is broken down along demographic lines. This slide actually is a part of our Executive Order 203 plan, where I wanted to start gathering the data points along the demographic lines. As you can see, there's been 53% of the arrests were demographically described as white, and over 43% were identified as being Black. 2% were Asian, and 1% were described as Indian. Traffic tickets remain nearly flat from where they were last year, with a slight 4% decline. Again, I think we're still reeling from the impact of the pandemic. We have been working internally and diligently to increase our traffic enforcement to keep pace with the rising traffic crashes that I'll show you in a couple of slides, because I do think that there's a correlative effect that when we increase our traffic enforcement, traffic crashes decrease. Again, this is the second year illustrating the demographic breakdown of traffic tickets being issued over a 5-year period. Now, collecting race traffic tickets is literally a checkbox in our electronic traffic ticketing system known as TRAX. Before 2021, the race field, it was not a mandatory data point that we collected. So 2021 is the first year that we've had accurate data when it comes to issuing traffic tickets. It represents, the numbers here represent that 53% white, 27% Black, 6% Hispanic, 5% Asian, and 8 were described as other. In 2021, we saw about another 10% decrease in DWI arrests. These numbers, the number 37 DWI arrests are historically low numbers. I think, again, that the pandemic and some of the staffing issues that we experienced last year's played a part, along with bars and restaurants being closed and closing earlier. I'm not sure that the arrest trend is going to significantly increase this year or the next couple of years due to some of those issues. You know, as I've said in the past, these numbers, I think, they will definitely affect the amount of grant money we get in the coming years. And unfortunately, they may even cause a ripple effect with the grant funds even beyond the foreseeable future, which could directly impact our efforts in enforcing DWI laws. What we've done internally is we are being more proactive in doing sobriety checkpoints on the midnight shift. And I'm giving serious thought, as soon as we are fully staffed and a couple of officers come back from illness and injury, of staffing a full-time DWI car. Motor vehicle crashes, as you can see in 2021, there was an uptick in motor vehicle crashes, which I think is mirroring a national trend. Is about a 27% increase, or an additional 211 motor vehicle accidents. The numbers are still low as compared to 2017, 18, and 19, but it's definitely trending in the wrong direction. Our fatal crashes, however, did go down in 2021. We had 3 fatalities in 2020 and only 1 so far, or 1 in 2021. Mental health transports. Our mental health transports is where someone who's in crisis is transported via ambulance to the hospital. We saw about a 16% increase in 2021 as compared to 2020. I think these numbers, as Dennis mentioned, are definitely trending in the wrong direction. And I think they're actually going to be increasing in 2022. We currently partner with FIT, the Forensic Intervention Team, which is a team of Monroe County social workers. We do outreach in the community, and currently, as within the last few months, there has been a co-dispatch model that's being implemented here in town and across the county. So in other words, they're actually being dispatched along with us, and in some cases will actually arrive on scene before we get there. I really think that the proactive outreach that we do with FIT, or the Forensic Intervention Team, works really well for us. When we can interact with somebody post-crisis, make sure that they're getting services they need and are connected to the services they need. As you mentioned, in the state of the town, 100% of our staff have mental health first aid training. And as of this year, 100% of our staff have crisis intervention training of our patrol staff. We were the first in the county to have that. And it's a designation that I'm proud of, and it's going to be an ongoing effort as we go forward hiring new officers to make sure that they have that crisis intervention training. This is also a relatively new demographic category that we began tracking last year. This is the 5-year trending data from the previous slide, shown as percentages over the 5 years. The slide breaks down the demographic data. As you can see, 80% of the mental health transports were white as compared to 17% Black, 2% Asian, and 1% Indian. This chart is directly from New York State. It shows 158 victims of criminal offenses of domestic violence, to include such crimes as assault, sex offenses, and border protection violations. There's been an 18% increase last year, and I think we may now just begin seeing the increase of domestic violence in the coming years coming out of the pandemic. We did respond to 571 calls of domestic violence in 2021, and of those, we saw a 7% increase in arrests, which equated to 71 total arrests in 2021 versus 66 in 2020. So the number of arrests are increasing with the number of victims. We do have a pro-arrest policy, but there are many factors why an arrest is not made, up to and including a lack of cooperation from the victim. The felony offenses of order protection violations, there's a mandatory arrest, and that would include something where even a victim of domestic violence does not wish to cooperate. I would remind any victim of domestic violence to call the Domestic Violence Center at 222-7233, and that's a 24/7 number, 7 days a week. This also is a relatively new category for our annual report depicting personnel complaints. As you can see, the number of complaints went down in 2021, 33 as compared to 41 in 2020. So we're trending in the right directions. Personnel complaints can range anywhere from a needed explanation of policy or procedure, a perception of rudeness from an officer, a driving complaint, or up to and including an actual policy violation. Personnel complaints can be generated by someone calling 911 or even internally driven by a staff member here in the police department. Either way, we have personnel complaints by using a specific tracking code for each component. Our use of force data, as you can see, we're trending in the wrong direction. This represents a 5-year trend. We used force 18 times in 2021 versus 11 in 2020. I would describe most of these uses of force as forceful handcuffing. A use of force definition is provided in New York State executive law. However, our internal departmental definition is even more comprehensive, so we can actually capture more instances than the Division of Criminal Justice Services would require. The numbers of use of force are not only tracked individually, but in the aggregate as well. It can be used as an early warning indicator to correct poor behavior or poor tactics when officers interact with an arrestee. It's important to ensure that we track these numbers and that we are compliant with our policy and training, and to identify any gaps that need our attention. I believe we have a robust reporting and investigation of every use of force, up to and including several layers of supervisory review and a review of body-worn camera footage. I show this bar graph just so you can compare the proportions between the number of calls for service to the number of arrests, to the complaints and use of force. When you look at the number of calls for service compared to the number of complaints and use of force, you can see the number of interactions that we're having are much greater than the actual use of force and personnel complaints that we actually receive. Less than 1% of our calls for service end in a use of force on arrestees. The use of force is very rare, and it rarely results in any significant injury. But however, we have a robust reporting mechanism, and my philosophy is I'd rather over-report a use of force than under-report. Our 2021 goals and objectives revolved around implementing our Executive Order 203 plan. The training we have conducted, our ABLE training, our principal policing training, is at the core of our community policing philosophy. As I said earlier, 100% of our patrol force is CIT trained, crisis intervention, to provide a better service to those in distress. I'm always looking for ways to keep our agency at the forefront of professional policing, and this training is one key component to accomplish that. We have expanded the diversity of our department to better reflect the population we serve. Our sworn staff, currently 16% female, 16% demographically identified as Black, Hispanic, or other. QHIT, as you mentioned, is a private company that you can use a QR code to conduct a survey of the officers between the citizens and officers who they come into contact with. It's ongoing feedback versus saying doing a once a year or once every 2-year survey. And it directly represents those we actually have contact with. As you mentioned, we implemented a citizen interview panel, citizen volunteers that provide us with additional input on those we hire. Our last 4 hires have been through that process, and I look forward to continued use of that panel in the future. In closing, I'd just like to say thanks for the opportunity to showcase the good work of the men and women of the department and taking the time to listen to me this evening. Again, the full annual report on our website has much more comprehensive data that you can review. If any of you or any of the public have any questions, you can ask them or don't hesitate to contact me at a later date. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you for that very comprehensive annual report, and in particular showing the ways that you have and continue to implement not only the philosophy of community policing that I know underlies everything that you do, but also the 203 police reform plan. In your agency and in this town, that was not a matter of eyewash. I know that's something you took seriously. You collaborated with members of the community as you prepared it, and it was done in a thoughtful and thorough way, just as this report was. Thank you. Unfortunately, not quite so thorough was the way that I seemed to miss someone very, very important as I was going through our State of the Town message tonight. My assistant, Bridget Monroe, talk about a jack of all trades. The work that Bridget does in interacting with community residents who walk in, call in with questions, with concerns, and Bridget works with them, handles them, engages with them in a way that it's truly remarkable sometimes. You can hear that this is going to be a difficult interaction. And in particular, Bridget has dealt with, I don't think it's an exaggeration to say, hundreds of people who have been very frustrated by Rochester Gas and Electric and Source Power in the community solar program. Bridget has been their primary point of contact here in Town Hall. I wouldn't want to have to deal with that, because while they're not problems caused by the town of Brighton, in fact, the town of Brighton has filed complaints with the Public Service Commission over them. The calls come here, frankly, because they haven't been handled well by either RG&E or Source Power. So thank you for all of that, Bridget, and my apologies. But let's move on to the open forum at this point. Again, as you know, the open forum is the opportunity to address the town board about matters relating to the town, whether or not they're on the agenda. We may not respond directly to your questions if you ask a question during the open forum, particularly if they do relate to matters that are not before the board this evening. But I want to assure you that we listen and we take your input and we take your questions seriously. If you would like to address the board during the open forum, as I mentioned earlier, you must join this meeting on Zoom if you have not already done so. Please use the raised hand function in Zoom if you do intend to speak during the open forum. Each speaker will have up to 3 minutes to address the board, and I will advise you when you have 30 seconds left. Please address your comments to the board, not to other speakers. And please do not use the open forum to make personal attacks of any kind. Our goal here tonight and during the open forum that we hold at every regular town board meeting is to give you the opportunity to share your thoughts with the board and for us to be able to listen thoughtfully to your input. So if there is anyone that would like to speak during the open forum, I'll encourage you to use, again, the Zoom raised hand function. Bridget, is there anyone with their hand raised to address the board?
We don't have anyone with a raised hand at this point, but we do have 5 people who are on.
Okay, that's good. But again, if anybody would like to address the board, please use the raised hand function. And if not, we will continue on with the agenda. And can I have a motion, Chris, to approve tonight's agenda?
Bill, I move to approve the agenda.
Can I have a second? Was that Robin?
Yes, second, Robin.
Thank you. Any discussion? Hearing none, Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember DePonzio,
Aye.
Councilmember Werner,
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt,
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado,
Aye.
Supervisor Maley.
Aye. We have one public hearing tonight, and I should have made clear for anybody that would like to address the board on the subject matter of the public hearing. Now is the time to do that. Tonight, the public hearing relates to the removal of 2 hazardous trees, a public hearing called under the town's tree law. One tree that is across the street from 31 Walden Place, and the other located at 60 Helen Road. I know there was an issue in terms of the postcards, the mailing of notice to adjoining property owners. So while we are going to hold this public hearing, we will not be taking action on the matter tonight. But I do declare the public hearing to be open. And again, if there is anybody that would like to address the board during the public hearing on the removal of trees across from 31 Walden Place and adjacent to 60 Helen Road, please raise your hand and you'll be recognized. I do not see anyone. Any input from members of the town board for the public hearing? Hearing none, we're going to table this public hearing, Ken, until which meeting?
July 13th meeting, please. So that will give us adequate time to send out the postcards and comply with town code, and then we'll hold the public hearing again on July 13th. So if someone could make a motion to table to the July 13th meeting, that would be wonderful.
Can I have that motion to table until July 13th?
Yes, with respect to removal of 2 hazardous trees at Walden Place and Helen Road, I move we table the matter until our July 13th, 2022 meeting.
Thank you, Jason. Is there a second?
Second, Christine.
Thank you, Christine. Any discussion? Hearing none, Dan, please call the roll.
Actually, Supervisor, sorry, Ken, does that need to be renoticed in the paper as well?
Yes, if we could have it renoticed in the paper as well, and then coordinate with the DPW on sending out notices to
Yep,
neighbors.
will do.
Thank you. Now, if you would call the roll, please.
Councilmember DePonzio,
Aye.
Councilmember Werner,
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt,
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado,
Aye.
Supervisor Maley.
Aye. We have one item of communication. Can I have a motion to receive and file?
So moved.
Second, Chris.
That one item of communication I referenced in the state of the town. It's from Jennifer Cesario, the Monroe County Controller, with information on first quarter sales tax distribution to the town. And as you can see, it's pretty good news. There's a significant, approximately $300,000 increase in sales tax revenues distributed to the town during the first quarter. And that is also significantly over our budget targeted range. So we always like good news of that kind. So can I have a motion to receive and file that item, please?
So
I
moved.
believe we
Oh,
are.
I think we have that already. I'm sorry. I think Robin made that motion and Christine seconded.
That's correct.
Any discussion?
Chris
Uh,
seconded.
Oh, Chris seconded? Okay. Great. If there's no comment, Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember DePonzio,
Aye.
Councilmember Werner,
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt,
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado,
Aye.
Supervisor Mailey.
Aye. Committee reports, the Community Services Committee first, Robin.
Thank you, Bill. The Community Services Committee met last Wednesday, May 18th. Among the items that we discussed were under continuing business park issues. This has been a busy spring with the Parks Department struggling to keep up with the rapidly growing grass and facilities maintenance obligations. Trail maintenance has also presented a challenge with materials costs exceeding anticipated levels. But on the brighter side, a stone dust path has been installed to connect the parking lot to the paved trail at Brighton Town Park, greatly improving accessibility. And despite labor shortages, all 4 seasonal staff have been hired. All will begin work prior to June 1st. Field use demand continues to be exceptionally high, and while challenging, we're meeting the needs of all requesters. We will be reviewing policy to ensure that our fee schedule is aligned with our mission of centering instructional and recreational programming. All tennis courts will be resurfaced and dual lined for tennis and pickleball this season. Instructional programming, per usual policy, will take precedence over pickup and walk-in activities. In areas of recreation, our recreation department is in the midst of our busy spring summer event season. Final planning is underway for our annual Memorial Day observance, which will be this Monday, May 30th at 2 p.m. at the Veteran Memorial at Buckland Park, which is 1341 Westfall Road. Coordination with the Brighton Police Department is taking place for our annual bike rodeo, which will be on Sunday, June 5th at 9:45 a.m. That will be at the grassy area between Brighton High School and 12 Corners Presbyterian Church. And as always, we thank the Brighton Police Department for again facilitating this event. Hiring is underway for a full-time recreation leader, seasonal camp staff, and lifeguards. Community gardening opening, or the community garden opening day took place on the weekend of May 14th. Stone dust paths were installed to connect the parking lot to the trail and the trail to the garden entrance, again, vastly enhancing access to the beds. The farmers market has been very successful with cooperative weather and large crowds every weekend. We're preparing for the necessary adjustments that will be needed due to construction once the school year ends. An update to our Inclusion, Diversity, and Equity Advisory Board on Thursday, May 19th. The IDEA Board met in conjunction with our new town DEI officer, Miriam Moorbert, for the first time Miriam will be taking the lead on future DEI efforts for the town, including staffing the Idea Board and Celebrations Committee when it is fully constituted. A public forum was held on May 3rd to gather feedback from the community on the draft idea plan with strong participation given the current COVID hesitancy. And feedback from the May 3rd forum will be incorporated into the draft idea plan, and we will be seeking additional opportunities to garner feedback from the community, either in person or via hybrid event. Details to be announced. In addition, you may always offer feedback online for the draft idea plan via the Idea Board website, which is www.brightonidea.org. An update to our community choice and community solar aggregation plans through a Public Service Commission letter dated April 27th. We finally have acknowledgement of the town's complaint and grievance with both RG&E and our community solar aggregation supplier, Source Power. We will continue to insist that the PSC use its enforcement powers to arrive at a satisfactory and mutually agreed upon resolution to the billing discrepancies experienced by our residents and other ratepayers. There was discussion of upcoming renewal of the CCA and potential rate increases given the current market conditions, as the supervisor did mention in his State of the Town address. We will be coordinating with our partners at Joule Energy and Rocktricity regarding community education and increasing awareness of the benefits of the CCA and bulk rate fixed price 100% renewable energy. An update to our clean energy community priority actions and sustainability funds. The Sustainability Oversight Committee submitted a letter dated May 6th, 2022 in support of a community campaign highlighting heat pumps and geothermal energy options. Also, we're very close to reaching a final agreement, as the supervisor mentioned, with RG&E on the installation of LEDs in their proprietary Cobra headlights. An update to our Urban League of Rochester ESL Town of Brighton First Time Home Buyers Program. Given the historical impact of development in the community by the Eastman Kodak Company and restrictive covenants promulgated in our town, we have been engaged in continued discussions with ESL to pilot a reparative and restorative Reinvestment Act funded program in Brighton. To that end, we will be meeting with the Jammu Katwana, the VP and Director of Community Impact at ESL Federal Credit Union, and Eric Van Dusen, Senior Relationship Manager of Community Impact, on June 17th to look at a program tailored for Brighton. In our Adapt to Site program update, there was discussion of the scope of the program model to make sure it fits the needs of Brighton. And once finalized, it will be important to start small and grow the program as the needs of the community require. We did have our annual clean sweep on May 7th. It was a busy day in the community with several competing events and activities. Registration was a little soft, however, actual participation was much better than the registration numbers, with approximately 125 and between 125 and 150 event participants. School participation with students was outstanding. We prepackaged materials this year for those that had pre-registered, which made it an easy grab and go distribution in the morning. And we also offered a grab and go lunch format, which worked well in the afternoon. As always, we want to thank our many monetary and in-kind sponsors and hope to return to full strength of numbers in 2023. And under items of new business, and I did see Kristen perhaps signing on again. We had a Climate Solutions Accelerator sign-on letter that was considered by the committee, and the committee is in favor of signing on to that pledge. Kristen, are you on? Or I know that she was hopping between meetings.
I am, yes.
Okay, great. Would you like to take the floor on that? Tell us a little bit more about it.
Sure, thank you. And thank you for having me. So the Climate Solutions Accelerator over the past year has worked with to facilitate the Genesee Finger Lakes Climate Collective, a collective impact initiative to take climate action in our region. As part of this, we released a regional climate action strategy over Earth Day, and that can be found on our website, www.climategfl.org/climate action strategy. And as part of this, we have an organizational pledge wherein organizations commit to implementing actions that will help to reach the state's CLCPA goals. And so Councilmember Wilt has stewarded this pledge for the town of Brighton, and we would be thrilled to work as partners and collaborators to move this work forward, and we appreciate the town's continued leadership in the areas of sustainability. And we also, as part of this pledge, a key component is the climate justice components. And so this, I do believe, will align with the great work you're also doing through your IDEA initiative. So it is a great pleasure to be working alongside you on these goals.
Thank you so much, Kristen, for all the work that Climate Solutions Accelerator does in promoting equitable and sustainable policies throughout the region. And we look forward to being a co-signer with all of the other great municipalities and governmental entities that have already signed on to the letter. Thank you so much for including us.
Thank you.
Yes. And sorry, lost my place here. The last item was new business. Was the discussion of available seats on our current and new committees and boards, and making sure that all members of the community are aware of those openings and are signing on to those boards. So that concluded our work. Again, our upcoming events are the Memorial Day observance, which will be Monday, May 30th at 2 p.m. again at the Veterans Memorial at Buckland Park, 1341 West Fall Road. The Reconnect Rochester Trail Ride will go through Brighton on Saturday, June 4th on National Trails Day. For more information, you can look at the Reconnect Rochester website. We will have our, again, annual bike rodeo on Sunday, June 5th at 9:45 a.m. at the between the parking lot at 12 Corners Presbyterian Church and Brighton High School. And the next meeting of the Community Services Committee will be on Wednesday, June 15th, 9:30 a.m. at the Brookside Recreation Center. And as always, members of the public are welcome to attend. And that concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Robin, and thank you, Kristen, for coming. Of course, I read the pledge, and it certainly aligns very well with the work that we are doing and plan on continuing to do in the area of sustainability. So thank you for bringing that to our attention, and certainly my intention to sign it. Next, we have Finance Committee. Jason.
And yes, Bill, I was actually not at the Finance Committee meeting last Wednesday. I was out of town, but the meeting was chaired by Councilmember Wilt, so I will hand the microphone back over to her.
Thank you.
I do remember that.
Yes, I was the acting lead on the Finance and Administrative Services Committee, which met last Wednesday, May 18th as well. Each of the items that was discussed in committee will be appearing on tonight's town board agenda and will be discussed in greater detail at that time. The next meeting of the Finance and Administrative Services Committee will be held next Wednesday, June 1st at 8:30 a.m. in the downstairs conference room at Brighton Town Hall. As always, members of the public are welcome to attend. That's it.
The downstairs conference room.
That may need to be looked at.
Yeah. Because, I mean, I don't know if there's something going on in the auditorium, but I know that downstairs meeting room is in no condition to,
I believe it is a continuation of some of the extended Board of Assessment review meetings.
that's what I was wondering. Yeah.
So
I'm gonna suggest we think about the stage conference room
Oh.
instead.
Okay, so in the stage conference room, is Paula, there's something in the stage conference room that would prevent us from?
Just
That's what I was
double
told.
checking now.
Huh.
Give me 2 seconds.
Okay.
1, 2.
All right, 2 minutes, 1 minute. Peanut Gallery Parker.
It will be at town hall somewhere.
It will be in town hall. We can for sure say that. Yeah, the adjourned meetings are taking place in the auditorium and the stage. So
And the
we'll need
stage.
to find additional space.
Mike, I wonder if your if your conference room in Public Works will be available that morning.
Yeah, it could be. Generally, we don't schedule a lot in there, so we could certainly make it available, Bill.
Although if you'd like to schedule one of your birthday parties in there, I think that would be fine too.
The weather's nice. We'll go out back if we have to.
All right. Well, in any event, if that meeting will be in town hall, probably in the Public Works conference room.
We'll get signage up at reception to let folks know if
Great.
anybody wants to come.
Perfect. Thank you, Dan.
Thanks so
And
much.
thank you, Robin, for that report. Next, the Public Safety Committee. Chris.
Thanks, Bill. Public safety has not met since our last town board meeting where we reported in detail, but our next meeting will be June 14 at 8:00 a.m., I believe, in the auditorium. And the public
Very
is
good.
invited.
Thank you. And Christine, the Public Works Committee.
I'm going to give almost exactly the same report as Chris. Public Works has not met since the last town board meeting. Our next meeting will be Tuesday, June 7th at 9 a.m. in the Town Hall Auditorium. So if anybody has anything they want brought to the attention of the committee, they can check out townofbrighton.org/publicworks and send off notes to any of the committee members.
Thank you, Christine. We'll move on then to new business. Jason, reading and approval of the claims.
Yes, Bill, earlier today, I reviewed claims totaling $823,469.02. Notable claims include to Baker and Taylor Incorporated, the amount of $9,740.12. Representing payment for adult and children's books and multimedia materials for Brighton Memorial Library by purchasing contract. Also to the Depository Trust Company, in the amount of $212,427.54, representing payment for the following serial bonds: the 2016 HVAC and highway equipment matter, the 2017 drainage, sewer, and sewer equipment matters, and the 2020 Parks and Highway Equipment and Duffield Drive project matters. The principal out of that amount was $195,000 paid down on those bonds. Also to Monroe County Library System in the amount of $28,921.15, representing payment for borrower cards, membership fees, and cost share charges. Also to Scanex Pipe Services in the amount of $12,965, representing sewer rehab services on Chelmsford Road. And finally to Sunoco LLC in the amount of $13,447.27, representing payment for April 2022 unleaded fuel purchases at the fuel depot per state contract pricing. The claims all appear to be in order, and I move that they be approved.
Second, Robin.
Thank you. Any questions or discussion? Hearing none, Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember DePonzio,
Aye.
Councilmember Werner,
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt,
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado,
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy.
Aye. Christine, the next one, please.
Yes, the next matter seeks to authorize the supervisor to amend the municipal snow and ice agreement with the New York State Department of Transportation to reflect the additional plowing of state roads by increasing the cost for the 2021-22 winter season by $8,372.15 for a total of $262,073.64. I move that we adopt the resolution before us.
Second,
Can I
Chris.
second? Thank you, Chris. Mike, anything you'd like to say on this or any other discussion that anybody has?
Just real quick, Supervisor, we do plow the state roads in the town. And because of the severe winter last year, they had to adjust our contract, and it's the amount that Christine had just mentioned, the $8,300 or so, to reflect the additional lane miles we plowed. Nothing more than that, Supervisor.
Great. Thank you. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Dan, please call the roll on the motion.
Councilmember DePonzio,
Aye.
Councilmember Werner,
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt,
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado,
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy.
Aye. Robin, the next matter, please.
Certainly, the next matter. Oh. Flipping through. Sorry. Flipping through.
That's it.
The next matter seeks to approve the appointment of Colin Daly to the position of Recreation Leader beginning June 2nd, 2022. I move that we adopt the resolution as prepared by the town attorney.
Second, Christine.
Becky, anything you'd like to say about this appointment?
Just that we are very excited to have Colin joining us. He's going to bring a lot to the department. He's a recent graduate of Brockport, and he has a sports management degree and an undergrad in recreation and leisure studies and an associate's in PE. So he's really going to bring a lot to the department and help us to reinvigorate our programming and directly lead a lot of these programs for us, so we don't have to rely so heavily on outside instructors and paid hourly staff, which are in such high demand and short supply these days. So we're excited to have this new, have him joining us to start this next chapter for the department and lead us to great things. So we're excited.
Fantastic. Leads you to even greater things.
Absolutely.
Since you already have great things.
Yes, it's much needed and very welcome.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember DePonzio,
Aye.
Councilmember Werner,
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt,
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado,
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy.
Aye. And Robin, why don't you do the next one as well?
Certainly. The next matter seeks to approve the participation in a clean heating and cooling mini campaign. I move that we adopt the resolution as prepared by the town attorney.
Second, Jason.
And I know this was discussed briefly not that different from the model that we used several years ago on the Solarize Brighton. It's a plan, and hopefully we'll be able to engage some people in what is going to be an important part of the future of residential heating and cooling. So, any other comments, Robin? Anything in particular you want to add to that?
Yeah, not really. Just that this serves quite nicely to support the reason why we're signing on to the Climate Solutions Accelerator letter. This is one of those clean energy community campaigns that will benefit us not only in terms of the points we gain from NYSERDA, but adding additional sustainability options for the community.
Sounds good. And as the letter points out, it will get us enough points to reach the threshold for a $10,000 grant from NYSERDA, which is nice to know, nice to have. Further discussion, anybody? Hearing none, Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember DePonzio,
Aye.
Councilmember Werner,
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt,
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado,
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy.
Aye, and Chris, the last item there, please.
Bill, the last item is to approve a date for public referendum on the termination of the West Brighton Fire Protection District Length of Service Award Program. I move that we adopt the resolution before us.
Second, Christine.
Thank you. And this will have the effect of changing the date, which was originally planned for yesterday, actually, and now it will be scheduled for June 14th. And notice will be given of that date. Ken, anything else you want to add
No,
to
that's
that?
fine. That's it.
All right. Then any further discussion on that matter? Hearing none, Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember DePonzio,
Aye.
Councilmember Werner,
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt,
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado,
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy.
Aye. Matters of the supervisor, the March expense and revenue report and the first quarter of 2022 expense and revenue report. Paula Parker, Finance
Yes.
Director. The
Yes.
floor is yours.
Thank you very much. I'll make this long, so no, we'll make it brief. I'm just gonna go over some numbers first. It'll probably make your eyes glaze over, and it'll be a reminder of what we did last October when we adopted the budget for 2022. When we adopted the budget for 2022, we our three big funds, we always talk about the general fund, the highway, and the library fund and debt services. So we provided for $27,360,000 in net appropriations, which is fully funded by our property taxes, which was just under 16 million. We had $1,874,860 in appropriated fund balances and reserves, and about $9,500,000 in all other revenues. So the first quarter of the year is generally, we stay within budget. It's usually very generic. So there's just a couple items I want to focus on. First is our revenues. Of that $9,500,000, 58% of that is going to be sales tax. We've budgeted sales tax at $4,400,000. And then the other piece of that is going to be our mortgage tax, which we have budgeted at $945,000. Now our mortgage tax, can't tell you anything about that tax because we get those payments, everybody knows, in June and December of each year. So we haven't gotten any of that. However, our sales tax, as the supervisor mentioned earlier, I'm going to give you a little sneak peek about that. We received $1,380,000 approximately. 300,000 over the first quarter. Again, we're at 25% of the year, but we received 31% of what we budgeted. This 1,380,000, I did go back several years, is the largest first quarter payment we've ever received. And it's very welcome news, very unexpected news, and it will certainly help pending what's going to be happening with our rate of inflation. And I know with the county's elimination of sales tax after the first $2 in 2 gallons, I'm sorry, in gasoline. No, $2, sorry. So that's good news. That's some early good news. The remaining revenues are coming in a little bit sluggish. We're behind our 25% benchmark. We're in about 22% on average, which isn't as well as we've done in previous years, but it is better than the year we had COVID, which was 2020. On the expenditure side, everything is running within our 25% benchmark. I wanted to touch on the overtime for the police department. Everybody knows that about 75% of our budget, about 20 million thousand, is all budgeted for salaries and fringe benefits. Usually our overtime can fluctuate. It can run a little bit high the first part of the year, depending on January through March, a snow season. This year, I'm happy to say that we are under budget. We're trending under what we normally trend, not by a lot, but we are trending under. And probably most of that is because while we might have had some rough months late in 2021, in early 22, I believe the snow wasn't as bad as it has been in past years. So that's looking good for us. All of our expenses are running within, as I said, our 25% benchmark. So it looks like we're running well for the first quarter, as we generally do at that time of year. However, we will, as we always do, keep our eyes on everything and make sure that we stay within our budget for our expenditures and collect those revenues.
Thank you very much, Paula. I do think it's obviously good news to see the sales tax number trending well, although there's could be some things coming down the road, particularly, the gas tax related, that may eat into that a little bit. Even though we don't have any numbers yet, I am a little worried about mortgage tax, given the significant rise in interest rates. Likely at some point really putting the brakes on refinancing activity. So we're just going to have to see, but it isn't the first time that's happened, and we'll watchful waiting to see how that moves forward. But thank you for your report, Paula. Can I have a motion to receive and file the quarterly, the first quarter report, please?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, Rob.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jason. Any discussion? Hearing none, Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember DePonzio,
Aye.
Councilmember Werner,
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt,
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado,
Aye.
Supervisor Mailey.
Aye. Matters of the town attorney. Ken.
Not have anything this evening, Supervisor. Thank you.
Thank you. Matters of the town clerk.
Just briefly, a reminder that we complete our portion of the town and county tax collection on Tuesday, the 31st. So any payments after that will go to the county rather than the town. Just as a reminder of everybody, otherwise, have a great Memorial Day.
Thank you very much. Matters of the town board.
I have only one quick reminder to the community that Reconnect Rochester, in addition to sponsoring the bike ride on National Trails Day on June 4th, which will pass through Brighton, as Robin pointed out. They are also continuing seeking votes for the Mind the Gap awareness project, looking for community members to take a close look at the bicycle network throughout the entire region and voting for top sites that need attention to close the gap in connectivity. Of the 10 nominated sites in the area, 2 Brighton, 1 is, bear with me one moment, the approach to Monroe Community College. They note it as the Henrietta campus on the reconnectrochester.org site, but it is the Brighton campus, which happens to brush up against Henrietta. However, regardless, the approach there is very dangerous when you are heading, if you were trying to cross over the 390 interchange. That's one of the nominated locations, and the other in Brighton is Elmwood Avenue from the city line to 12 Corners. We were on the cusp of getting the funding for a cycle track that would connect to the cycle track in the city, leading all the way out to 12 Corners for safe passage for bicyclists on one of the most direct and best routes in town for getting from Brighton to the largest employer in the region. And the funding is in limbo. So go to reconnectrochester.org, find the Mind the Gap button on that landing page, look at those 10 sites, nominate the connector on East Henrietta Road to get people to the Brighton campus of MCC, and nominate Elmwood Avenue from the city line to 12 Corners for the cycle track. Yeah, and that is all.
Oh, so you can vote for both.
Yes, yes, thank you. This is one of those opportunities where you can vote early, often, and for many good reasons.
All right. Chicago style. Okay. Any other matters of the board? Then can I have a motion to go into executive session to discuss the employment of a particular person?
So moved.
Second, Christine.
Robin.
Dan, please call the roll on that motion to go into executive session.
Councilmember DePonzio,
Aye.
Councilmember Werner,
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt,
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado,
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy.
Aye. Again, we got a lot of activities coming up, but of course, I particularly want to remind everybody of the town's observance of Memorial Day. This coming Monday on Memorial Day at 2 p.m. at the Brighton Veterans Memorial in Buckland Park. And we will see you again here on Zoom at the next meeting of the Brighton Town Board, June 8th, Wednesday night, June 8th at 7 p.m. I do not expect we'll be coming out back into public session following this executive session. So we will see you again on June 8th. Have a great evening, everybody. Thanks for joining us.
Good night.